opinion, it does not contradict peak cheap oil. I think net zero, particularly in the West, may actually be code for peak cheap oil. Because if you say climate change and net zero, you sound like a hero. If you come out and say, hey, peak cheap oil or peak oil, the bond market crashes on you and people freak out and act very differently in terms of behavior. So it's to me, it seems like it could very well be a much more politically acceptable way of getting to the same thing. Let's set that aside and say that's crazy conspiracy theory talk and say that's absolutely not true. Climate change is climate change. Even then, I don't think it discredits peak cheap oil in any way or contradicts it in any way, because ultimately you can still see where the marginal sources of supply are likely to have to come from, and almost unanimously they require higher or significantly higher prices for oil and gas to drive that investment. And so I think whether it is, I think ultimately net zero is making things worse, but I don't think it's the reason. I think the real issue is the level of growth and what's happening with geology. Now, could climate action missteps crash the world economy? Yeah, I do. Take a look at what's happening in Europe. Take a look at what's happening in the UK. Take a look at what's happening in China. It's all fun and games until there's not gas at the pumps. It's all fun and games until you've got to shut down your factory because there's no electricity, because there's no gas, so there's no coal. So I admire the peak cheap, or excuse me, the net zero and the climate change and what they're trying to do. With that said, look, I've got solar panels on my roof, but when I put the solar panels on, I didn't disconnect my natural gas generator. I didn't disconnect my natural gas secondary heat. I didn't disconnect wood burning stoves I have. I didn't disconnect geothermal HVAC units that I have. I'm hedged. But I didn't disconnect those, and I can speak from someone with solar panels in Cleveland, Ohio. It'd be really, really cold for a lot of the winter if I was relying on those bad boys for my heat all winter. So I think it's been very suboptimal planning. I'll try to be politically correct here. I think it's been very suboptimal planning, certainly. Can that crash the world economy? Absolutely. Because